Good morning. My name is Achimaneta George, and I'm in the home of Ambassador Ruth A. Davis under the auspices of the American Folklife Center's Archie Green Fellows program. And I'm delighted to be here. Ambassador Davis, thank you for agreeing to participate in this project. Would you please tell us your origin story?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for including me in your project. It sounds like a very exciting project, and I think I'm one of the first that you're interviewing, so I feel very honored. My backstory. I was a war baby. I was born in Phoenix, Arizona. My father was based in Phoenix. He was in the Army. He was in Phoenix and in the Aleutian Islands. My mother traveled, they got married, and my mother traveled from South Carolina, where she was living, and I was born in Phoenix. And that's rather significant for me because not only being born in Phoenix, when we left Phoenix, we went to Atlanta. And Atlanta, as you know, was burned by Sherman in the Civil War. And it was after that, it rose to be finally an international important city. And so I felt an affinity to the Phoenix. I felt that from destruction, you could make success. I felt that from things that were not so beautiful, you could make things beautiful. So my identification with the Phoenix, and that led me to think about diplomacy, because diplomacy is something that can change things and make it a better world from an old world. My parents, as I said, my father was in the military. He got out of the military after a couple of years. He had been trained as a communications specialist. But when he came back to Atlanta, any company that had to do with communications, the only job they would offer him was a janitor's job. So he ended up with a job in the post office. My mother, he was a mail carrier. My mother was a teacher, a school teacher. She taught elementary school. In fact, later, she became one of the people who helped to integrate the Atlanta school system. But we're talking about when I was growing up. My first memory is when I was about 5 years old. My mother went to the hospital to have my sister, and they left the money for me to pay the ambulance driver when the ambulance driver brought my mother home. So my mother arrives home with this baby that I certainly did not want. So I decided that if I didn't pay the ambulance driver, they would take the baby away. But some way, somebody convinced me that I should pay the ambulance driver. And that was the best thing that I did because I love my sister dearly.
What is her name?
Eugenia Davis Clements. Dr. Eugenia Davis Clements. That's medical doctor.
You.
My parents were wonderful, very religious, very strict people. I grew up in the Church of Christ. My father was an elder in the church, and my father taught me a lot about being on time, about keeping my word. He also read to us poetry. So I remember, and I can recite the lines of many poets and poems because my father read them to us. My mother was also a very strict, no-nonsense woman who taught me a lot about being adventurous, about wanting, that she was a teacher, about wanting to read, to understand the world through books. And also, she encouraged me to spend a lot of time in the library. And back then, you could check record albums out of the library. And I remember very fondly she told me, now, you get this record by an opera singer by the name of, what was his name? Mario Lanza. And I brought the record home, and that was my first exposure to opera, which I, through my life, came to love very much. But I was saying that my mother was very adventurous and taught me to be adventurous. What she did was to encourage the family to take vacations in the summer. Before 1956, we did not have a family car. We got a family car, and the very next summer, we drove across the country from Atlanta to California. And that's when the travel bug really hit me. And I knew that I wanted to spend time learning about the world.
Ambassador Davis, I seem to recall that you are a graduate of Spelman College. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about your formal education, Spelman, Cal Berkeley, and entering Foreign Service, if you would.
Yes. As I said, I grew up in Atlanta. And as far as my parents were concerned, there was no going to visit various campuses. You are going to Spelman College, because they had the kind of faith in Spelman that they should have had, because Spelman is a wonderful institution that develops young women in so many different fields, medical, international affairs, biology, you name it. Spelman has it. And in fact, one of my great mentors was Lois Moreland, who I think you know, who was at Spelman College, and she was in international affairs, and she helped to encourage me. She helped me to get what's called the Merrill Scholarship. And with that Merrill Scholarship, I got $3,000. Okay, remember that's a long time ago. I got $3,000 and I could study anywhere in the world that I wanted to study. So I went to France. When I was in France, now this is in the 60s, the early 60s. When I was in France, I met African students who were from countries that were just getting their independence. And while we were talking about the civil rights struggle back in America, they were talking about going home, assuming the leadership of their countries, and building their country. And consequently, I got very excited about Africa. And I wanted to go to Africa. And as it turns out, I went back to Spelman after my time in France and traveling around the Middle East and traveling around Europe. I went back to Spelman and I got what was called a Ford Foundation grant to be a foreign affairs scholar. And from my time as a foreign affairs scholar, I entered the Foreign Service. And entering the Foreign Service with one goal in mind, that was to get to Africa.
And tell us a little bit about your Foreign Service.
Well, let me just say that I also, once I got finished Spelman, I went to Berkeley and I studied, I went to the School of Social Welfare, which was a very good background for me to become a consular officer. Because the diplomacy and social welfare, consular work, they were very many things in common.
Indeed. So you were at Cal Berkeley in the late 60s?
I was at Cal Berkeley in the late 60s when Mario Savio was leading the free speech movement. And in fact, I was there when we went on strike for a Black Studies program. Early one morning, I went picketing for a Black Studies program. At noon, I put my sign down, ran back to my apartment, got my bag, hopped on a flight, went to Washington, and as soon as I got there, I had to raise my hand and swear I'd never strike against against the U.S. government. And I did that, and I never looked back, and the rest is history.
Wow. Talk to me about being a consular officer and what that means to you.
It meant, uh, it meant a lot because I've always wanted to do something that helped people. And of course, that's why I went into social welfare as a backdrop for my work in diplomacy. It means a lot because, first of all, I'm consular officers assist American citizens. That's one of the main mandates of a U.S. embassy, of a U.S. consulate. That is to look after the welfare and protection of American citizens. And I was able to do that. We are, as a consular officer, you help American citizens, everything from issuing birth certificates, death certificates, helping with their estate if after they were deceased, helping American citizens who were arrested and incarcerated. So I am also issuing visas and looking out for the national security of the U.S. to make sure that the people that you issue visas to were not going to come into the U.S. to harm the U.S. I enjoy very much being a consular officer. And you develop so many stories. Well, my first assignment was in Zaire because I wanted to go to Africa. And then I was in Kenya. And one of the things that I must say that I was proud of was that I brought my family, my parents, to Africa so that they could see the motherland. And I had many friends who came to visit me in Africa who would not have normally gone to Africa. So I was really very, very proud of that.
Marius, when were you in Kenya?
When was I in Kenya? The Mosaic was still in power. I never remember dates, so I have a sheet that I will tell you exactly when I was in Kenya. Okay. I was in Kenya in 1971 through 1973. And it was a beautiful country. It was absolutely, and it was interesting because it was going through this whole process of really the first, Mosaic was the first president, that's Jomo Kenyatta, was the first president, and the country was developing, and it was just a wonderful time to be in Africa, and a wonderful time to be doing consular work.
There may be other stories that you want to share about your experiences, both working abroad and in Washington.
Yes. I would say that being ambassador to the Republic of Benin was a high point of my career And it was really a blessing because not only did I get to exercise diplomacy, I was there at a time, it was like being in the United States when George Washington and Alexander Hamilton were developing this great democracy. Benin was in the process of developing its democracy. And I was able to work with the president, to work with my aid director to, first of all, our basic desire was to help Benin recreate its educational system because it had really been destroyed uh, uh, during the time before Solo became president. And one of the things that I did was that I insisted that if we were to help Benin restore its educational system, young girls had to be able to go to school, which they were not before. And so I feel very proud of the fact that I was able to insist that young girls become educated. We worked on things like developing the constitutional court, which oversaw all of the communication in Benin. We worked on all developing all of the institutions that you would need to foster and and develop a democracy. That, I think, was it was the high point of my overseas assignment. And I still keep in touch with President Soglo. He will give me a call every once in a while, and we talk about old times, and we talk about the present. So I'm very proud of that. It was a wonderful achievement. One of my other achievements that I'm proud of overseas was when I was consul general in get this, in Barcelona, Spain. My consulate was bombed. Can you believe it? You see, people think about the diplomats, first they think about them as men in pinstripe suits, that all they do is go to cocktail parties. No. Being a diplomat can be very dangerous business, as it proves to be for me in Barcelona. My consulate was bombed at midday. The configuration of the consulate was around a square. The back door faced the front door. At about 10 minutes to 1, I went out of the front door because I had a visitor from Washington and we were going to the residence. Somebody came in to the bomb in the front of the back door, which faced the front door. And just after I left, the bomb exploded. people were on the elevator, and they had it to explode at 1 o'clock because that's when we got out for lunch. And generally, that space would have been filled with people. It just so happened that that day it wasn't. When the elevator opened, the people in the elevator were knocked back, but nobody was out in the space, so nobody was killed. However, the front door was blown off of its hinges all the way across the front of the consulate. And the funny thing was that the guard, who usually stood right in front of that door, and had he been there, he would have been killed. Right in front of the door had blown out for a cigarette break. And I said, oh, this is one place where cigarette smoking was good for your health. But anyway, the consulate was bombed, and I had to replace the consulate. And I will tell you that I believe that I brought personally to the U.S. government the most beautiful consulate in all of Europe. It was previously a Red Cross building that belonged to a family. And my contribution to Barcelona was to get them out of a tacky building. It was tacky even before it was bombed, into a nice, new, beautiful consulate. So I'm very proud of that. In Washington, what I'm most proud of is the work that I did at the Foreign Service Institute. As the director of the Foreign Service Institute, I established a school of leadership and management. And as you know, Akeem, it is so important to have diplomats who are steeped in leadership and management. I think that school has changed the way that the people in the service see the importance of training. And I am proud to say that because I established the school and because it has meant so much to the Foreign Service, the Foreign Service Institute has named the Director's Conference Room in my honor.
Oh, I didn't know that. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad to see that.
Thank you. The other thing that I'm most proud of is the mentoring that I have done. I have mentored people who are now ambassadors, and one in particular that I'm very proud of is Linda Thomas Greenfield, ambassador to the United Nations. And day that her appointment was announced, she took the time to telephone me to tell me that the appointment was made and to thank me for my mentorship. So I am very, very proud of, and it's necessary if we are going to have diplomacy that really reflects the U.S. and that really that really achieves what we want to achieve overseas, we have to have diversity. And I have spent all of my career looking for diversity in the foreign service.
Well, that brings me to your work on the Pickering Fellowship.
Yes.
Because I remember you in the cafeteria at the State Department sharing your vision at the time.
Well, yes, I did work on the Pickering Fellowship, although the person who really was responsible for the Pickering Fellowship was Ambassador Perkins, Edward Perkins. I worked more directly in developing the Wrangell Fellowship because I was Director General at the time. I worked with George Ruth, who was the Distinguished Advisor at Howard, and we worked with Howard University and Congressman Wrangell to develop the Wrangell program. And those two programs, the Pickering and the Wrangell program, are responsible basically for the diversity that is that the State Department has at this point.
As a Black woman who was educated in the Jim Crow South and was fortunate to attend Spelman and Cal Berkeley and travel internationally as a young woman, as a young Black woman in the world, what are those seminal things that come to mind that you might offer to young Black girls and boys, in fact, young people today who are curious about the wider world? How do they prepare? What are the important features of Foreign Service statecraft, tradecraft we call it, that they should be preparing for now?
Of course, I believe that one of the most exciting and rewarding careers is a career in the Foreign Service. I have always said, anybody who knows me know that I have always said, short of being a multi-millionaire, I would not have rather do anything except be a Foreign Service officer. And that is because it gave me the opportunity to represent my country, to work on issues that were important to my country internationally. And I tell young people that if they want an exciting career, a career in which they can contribute to the image, to the goals and objectives of the U.S. overseas, they should look into the Foreign Service. And to prepare for the Foreign Service, it is a good thing to study international affairs, but you don't have to study international affairs. As you see, I studied social welfare. But I encourage people to study international affairs, to look into internships, to do internships at the State Department and USAID or other of the foreign affairs agencies. I encourage them to look and see how they might become foreign service officers. To go to our State Department website on careerstate.gov to look at what careers are available for young people. It is a fascinating world out there, and it is an honor and a privilege to represent the United States of America. And I'm very proud of the many women who have entered the Foreign Service, who have become ambassadors. Black women, we've had approximately over the years 50 black women who have become U.S. ambassadors. I don't know if you saw the article that I wrote about the many firsts, and you saw how black women earlier especially paved the way for those younger women coming along after us by doing just about anything that you can think of.
Well, Ambassador Davis, we're around here, and I'd like to give you an opportunity to share anything that you'd like to put on the record, as it were, about playing the Angels game, being a Black woman in diplomacy and international affairs.
Listen, I absolutely love the State Department. I love the profession that I had. There are many things that need to be done to make sure that diplomacy, the U.S. diplomacy, is in keeping with the time. First of all, the State Department needs to pay more attention to diversity and inclusion. There are many other things that we need to pay attention to. Science and technology, environmental issues, artificial intelligence. All of these things are new issues that the State Department needs to focus on. And they are focusing on it, but there needs to be intensified effort, especially with diversity.
Thank you. I'm prompted to just share with you, I'm thinking about the amount that we invest in defense versus the amount that we invest in diplomacy, and if you might want to say something about balancing those scales.
It is amazing that the State Department's budget, obviously it should not be completely equal to the Defense Department, but maybe it should be, because the state diplomacy is the first line of defense. And what we want to do is to engage in negotiation, engage in building friendships, building relations with countries overseas, so that these military squabbles do not materialize. It is a shame that the State Department's budget, when you compare it to the military budget, is paltry. And the Congress should really pay better attention to the State Department.
Thank you so much, Madam Ambassador. We really appreciate the opportunity to spend this time with you.
Thank you very much, Akeem. It's been my pleasure. And I wish you all the success with your project. And it'll be very interesting for me to listen to the younger people that you interview so that I can know what they are focusing on. I like to stay in touch with them because I like to continue my mentorship.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.